Hello, everyone. Hopefully you guys can hear me and I'm coming in loud and clear. Just give me a wave if you guys can hear me. Yeah, awesome. I see some wonderful, beautiful faces. Thank you guys for taking your time to respond to the invite that somebody extended to you who really cares about you. We have really, really good news tonight, and at a time in our nation that is not really happy and a lot of sadness around us. We have some really exciting things to share. Brand new science that most of us did not get in school, information about life-changing products, an entirely new industry, and a true structural change in health as we know it, which is something that all of us need to be educated about. We're going to unpack the whole freedom theme, because if you saw the flyer for this is called the Nurses Freedom Call. It's the very first of its type, and it's definitely due. A lot of the inspiration for this came from talking to our peers. My name is Lisa Bell Henson. I am also a nurse. I always tease that I'm a recovering ICU nurse, but my journey started many years ago. I'm going to share that with you. But one of the things I know about our profession is that we are skeptics by nature. Would you guys agree with that? And a lot of it is we have to be, because we're trained to look for what's wrong with things. When we assess a patient, we have to find out what's wrong. And so we tend to be skeptical and guarded. We also don't trust things that we don't understand. And that's really important to stay very upfront. In addition to that, we are suffering, we're exhausted, many of us are burned out. Many of us never have signed up for literally putting our lives on the line every single day. And my job is in creating conversations with people. And we're going to share with you a little bit more about that. In talking to our peers, there is tremendous amount of pain right now in our profession. I really want to do with this call is I want to share what's possible. I want to share what it feels like to be able to live better, to possibly be able to work in better conditions. And this may or may not be for every single person on the call. I get to introduce to you some people who have already jumped in and taken advantage of this. We're going to share real stories about people whose lives have been impacted. And these are not trained actors, I promise. I only paid them about $10. No, just teasing. But these are wonderful friends of mine. Some of them, I actually was the one that introduced this to them. But most of them, actually some other people, we created a team of people who have locked arms. And so let me just be really clear. The focus of this call is strictly education. In addition to that, it is an appreciation, because I hope you hear my heart. I so appreciate those peers of mine who are still on the front lines serving patients. You put your life and your whole family's life in harm's way every day to help people. And I hope you feel the appreciation for that. But at the end of the day, I want to pay forward information to you that was given to me 3 years ago that has totally changed the trajectory of my health, my life, my family's health, and in a way that is going to leave you with something really positive. And part of that is to assure you that this is really not a sales call. There are definitely products involved, but they're really products that I want to educate on. Nobody's going to ask you to buy anything. And so just relax and grab your notepad and let us share just a little bit about my story first and some other stories of people that I think you're going to really be inspired by. And so my story started because I grew up in a medical family. Traditional healthcare, my dad was a Marcus Welby doctor. My mom was a nurse. And I literally grew up being programmed that the healthcare system had all the answers. And that was including pharmaceuticals. So I grew up in a very pro-pharmaceutical household. My dad literally thought that every issue that man suffered could be resolved by a pharmaceutical medication. So that was my programming. And therefore, all I really knew was to become a nurse, because healthcare was my whole world. And so ICU was my goal. And being in the unit as an ICU nurse started to really change that pro-pharmaceutical worldview, because what I expected to see was that people here are suffering from genetic conditions. That was really what I thought. And I thought all these drugs can save them. And I don't know if you guys can relate to this or not, but one day at a time and one patient at a time, that worldview started to change. One of the first things that I realized is that these people are not really here because of genetics. That is 5% of the equation. They're here because of their lifestyle. And if I could get to them 30 years ago, 30 years previously, could I prevent them ending up in my unit? And that was really part of the difficulty of doing what I did. That literally it was not just seeing what patients are suffering from, but it was also the fact that this was the hardest job that I ever had. I worked really hard in school. I did really well academically, but I landed as an ICU nurse and I was working nights, weekends, holidays, punching a clock. There was no time freedom. I took call because I had to. And this is pre-COVID, like 100 years pre-COVID. And it was so hard. I would bring my check home every single pay period and I'd think, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this for 20 to 30 years. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but I was just not believing that this was sustainable. I wanted career advancement and I wanted more income. And so I literally went back to school. I did what my dad really always recommended, is more education. And I repositioned myself in the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, I went to work for the fat cats, and I worked in the most profitable of all those areas in big pharma, which is, you might guess, anti-cancer. And that's where I repositioned myself to, business suit, what I thought was just the very glamorous lifestyle, travel. But there were a couple things that happened. First of all, my healthy mom died of cancer at age 54. And part of the challenge of that was it was from the pharmaceutical meds that I actually marketed. And obviously she had cancer, but she, in a disease where she should have lasted 7 to 10 years, she died immediately after the chemotherapy, her first chemotherapy session. And it was a real paradigm shift for me. And then 5 weeks later, my first son was born. So I was heartbroken from losing my mom, had a new infant, 2 years later, a second son, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was heartbroken, paradigm shift. And so fast forward to about 8 years ago, 2 boys, my son, who's my older son, my firstborn, has taken the world by storm. My younger son has struggled. And it was through his struggles, he came to me when he was in high school and he said, Mom, there's something wrong with how I think. And because of my pharmaceutical programming and my medical background, I took him to his doctor. I did what the healthcare system told me to do, which is, here's a prescription that will help your son. And it sent us on a slippery slope, a 5-year, very, very depressing journey of medications, over 30 different medications, and a broken son. And the more I tried to help him with my traditional healthcare approach, the more broken that he became. And I was just out of answer. So I ended up at age 50, literally starting life over again. My family had broken up. My youngest son had no prospects of getting well. And I got a phone call. And it was from a holistic dentist that I knew and respected. And he asked me what I knew about CBD. And I thought he was offering me marijuana. And so I rejected him. And I was like, dude, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm a health-oriented person. What are you talking about? And he goes, listen, Lisa, he goes, you're an educator. I mean, your heart is to educate. And if you don't know about the endocannabinoid system, then you're not doing people justice. And I literally thought he had made up something scientific just so that I would look at what he was offering for me. And that's where I was 3 years ago. And so tonight, I get the pleasure of telling you about my own ignorance, but I was very well educated and I have a master's degree. And my dad and mom, we grew up with traditional health information, and yet I did not know about this. So tonight, what we want to share with you is information that could potentially change your life or somebody that you know. And the reason that I'm passionate about this is because I wasn't seeking it. It was seeking me. And just as you're on this call tonight, it is seeking you as well. I believe nurses have power and we have impact. And when we lock arms together, our voices are loud. And so I want to share my screen with you tonight. And let's see if you can see this. Hopefully you can see this. Mary Ellen, am I coming in loud and clear here? Let's see. All right. Can y'all see my screen? Yes, this guy wave at, is a Zoom wave. Yay. Well, I'm going to introduce you to the company that brought this to me. The name is Zalise, which is 2 words in Swahili. It stands for multiplying nutrition. And what's significant about that is their mission. Their founding mission by their co-founder, Steve and Angie Thompson, was literally to bring nutrition into the world to the tune of every single dollar purchased of their products would pay forward a day of nutrition. And that goes to through prenatals, through the Vitamin Angels program, to pregnant moms who are malnourished throughout the world, as well as what's the Patriot program, which is for veterans. And these are amazing programs, which we can definitely have a longer conversation about. But what was significant to me is that Stephen Thompson is a pioneer in the CBD hemp industry. This is a nationally recognized company. They have been well publicized. They're now, Forbes just sought them out for their 3rd interview because they have a very innovative approach. And I love this because really the heartbeat of the company is to give and to pay forward, which is what we're doing on this call. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that, and I want you guys just to kind of think about this for a second, today's health concerns have become an accepted normal. And all of us have seen this at the bedside. In fact, I was just talking to Kathy today, and I want to read you her quote. She's a nurse who's been in practice for 30 years. She said, "I've seen things that are worse than death." And so I think all of us would agree that now, even when I was a nurse, which is a significant number of years ago at the bedside, things have become much worse. Things that are now considered normal: polypharmacy, multiple medications, people who are suffering from pain, sleep disruptions, situational stress, weight issues, most obese nation in the world, dealing with our own aging process, immune system support, especially right now, and a new one that most of us have never heard of, endocannabinoid deficiency. Who do you know that struggles with all of these? I live right now here in Arkansas. I would say that almost everyone I run into of all ages can deal with one of these issues. And I want to give you a little homework assignment. One of the most amazing mentors, I don't know her personally, but I love her TEDx, is a doctor, Rachel Knox from Portland. And if you write this down, the ECS and the Revolution of One, it's going to give you some information on this brand new, newly discovered system of the body. This is just a YouTube, it's a TED Talk, it's 18 minutes. But instead of me diving really, really deep into science, I want to give you that reference because she does it so passionately. But when I talk about my son and his brain health issues, what we know today is that there is a system of the body that literally overlays every other system. It is larger than the central nervous system. It is called the endocannabinoid system. And so I'm going to kind of define some new terms. And this is where we kind of go back to school just a bit. We didn't get this in nursing school. The ECS, guys, Google it. Endocannabinoid system, largest system of the body. It has an amazing network. Every single cell in the body has a receptor for the endocannabinoid system. Therefore, it is fueled by something called endocannabinoids. The body produces our own cannabinoids just as we would any other neurotransmitter, any other molecule. The problem is, let me define one more term. The whole goal of the endocannabinoid system and the fueling of this system is to create what's called homeostasis or balance. I had heard of this word before. I wasn't really totally familiar. Couldn't have defined it for you. Homeostasis just means that health operates in a very narrow balance. And let's just use the digestive system, for example. If our digestive system is not in balance, nurses love talking about this. If it's overactive, we're going to have something like irritable bowel, diarrhea, it's just not pretty. It can come at times you don't want it. It hurts. If it's underactive, then we're going to have something like, constipation or some kind of other malady because our digestive system is not operating properly. So when that digestive system gets into balance, it can create amazing amazing ability to have normal stools, right? That was one of the first things I noticed when I started fueling the system. So homeostasis is every system of the body for people who have issues as well as for people who are healthy. Because what we now know is that most of us don't produce enough of our own internal cannabinoids. Why is that? Well, it's because the number one killer of our own internal cannabinoids is stress. And our nation is under attack right now. And the stress is palpable, whether you're on social media or you turn the TV on or not. And so we see that we are wrecked. Our health is completely wrecked, and we don't know why. So we have all those issues that come up, and we go to our doctor. Like I took my son, I said, fix my kid. And they prescribe medications, which what do? They address a symptom. They don't let the body work in conjunction. And I think we of all people have seen that there is a better way. So here's the question. If you could actually take back your health, if you could do it in a way that didn't involve pharmaceuticals, if you could do it in a way where you were almost guaranteed to feel better, creating a new normal, would you do it? I'm not going to say another word. I just want to introduce you to one of the most amazing business partners, friends that I have. She is also a nurse. She is amazing. Her successes and her accolades in nursing way surpass anything I've ever dreamed of. She's an actual lecturer. She's an author. She's traveled the world training people about the specific immune-mediated disease suffers from and the solution. So with no further ado, Mary Ellen Ziliak, I want to bring you to the line, and I just want you to tell us a little bit about who you are and the success that you've had with the endocannabinoid system support. And
sure. Thank you, Lisa, for the kind words. What a nice introduction. I've been an RN for 40 years. And during that time, I have held orthopedic nurse certification. I'm currently an MS certified specialist, and I worked as a director of nursing. So I had my career mapped out, but life happened. And in 1998, I was diagnosed with a chronic immune-mediated illness, and it turned my world upside down. So within a year after my diagnosis, I was not able to work, even part-time. I wasn't able to do my ADLs. I needed help with bathing, dressing, eating. My world became very narrow, and I was fighting depression. So along with that, my most difficult symptom was I didn't know my purpose in life anymore. So much of my identity was wrapped up. I really didn't know my purpose. So I was in a bad spot. I did what we were all taught in nursing school. I fought it. We were told, fight your illness. Whatever your diagnosis is, fight it. Oh, hey, we got someone else joining in. We might mute one. Thank you. Anyway, that fighting my illness, I found out by the time 2010 came around. I'd had a dozen years under my belt since my diagnosis. That fighting the illness didn't work for me. It was too negative. It just was me fighting my body, and I didn't want that. So I chose in 2010 to change my path, and I guess in essence to take my health back by being more positive. So I chose to embrace my illness as just a part of who I am. It doesn't define me. It's not the essence of me, but it's just a part of who I am. I think of it as a quirk. So with that new approach, I started setting daily goals, and they started out small. My first one was, I'm going to take the trash out. I'm talking a little trash bag. And doing that, I found I had a day with purpose, and I felt good. I felt better about myself. So the last 10 years, I've tried to expand that. I've done things like doodling and becoming a henna tattoo artist, and I started painting. And I opened an art gallery, Rivertown Art, here nearby, and started an artist cooperative. And then I paired up with a good friend of mine, Dr. Rick Yeager, and we together co-authored actually an Amazon bestseller called MS Beyond the Red Door, How to Live Well with Chronic Illness. And then I started on the speaking circuit you mentioned. And I loved all that, and each thing was following my heart. And it seemed like a normal evolution to turn to CBD. So when I had a friend ask me to come hear about it, I thought, sure, but I was still a bit of a skeptic. Like you said, Lisa, we nurses are skeptics. So I went thinking, I'll learn a little bit, but I don't expect anything. So I was pleasantly surprised when I tried my first sample of ultracell full spectrum hemp oil. Within 20 minutes, I had a dizziness lift that I had lived with for 20 years. And I thought, wow, placebo effect. That's okay, I'll take it. And then I realized the longer I was on it, the better I felt. I started sleeping better. I had less pain. I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night with muscle spasms. I wasn't using my cane as much. I was having some cognitive improvement. I was sharper, more alert. My husband said I was in a better mood. He loved that part. So I had good results, and I have been taking the products now for 2.5 years, and being a nurse educator now, teaching people about endocannabinoid health, hemp-derived products like CBD and CBG, they are now part of my purpose. I want to tell everybody this is a viable option backed by science. So I especially like to share that with my nursing colleagues. But I am very direct when I talk to nurses or anybody about this. I tell them, okay, guys, CBD doesn't treat anything, it doesn't cure anything, but it might fuel your body. It might provide the fuel you need to get that homeostasis you mentioned, Lisa, to where we have a balance in our body, because we know we've got homeostasis illness. So I'm on a mission to let people know this, and I'm happy to say I've got a wellness cabinet now instead of a medicine cabinet. Medicine has its place, but I think there is room for natural, Eastern and Western combined to come up with what is targeted for people to live well. So I feel driven to let people know I'm happy where I'm at. And I tell my nursing friends, you need to look to yourself first, because we are the first example of how to live our life well and be balanced. So we have to ask ourselves, is there something we would like to improve ourselves first? And then we have to actually educate ourselves enough to have the conversation with our clients about this hemp-derived option. So I love that. I love having a side gig at my age. I never thought I would, and I love it. I do as much or as little as I want, and it's a good deal. So thank you for letting me share my story, Lisa.
Well, Mary Ellen, that's not all you've done. I know that you have really created a team of people, and you've shared it with a few nurses who shared it with a few nurses. And there's a nurse on the line that is the direct beneficiary of you paying this forward. Her name is Peggy Grawl. And Peggy, it's great to see your beautiful face. I want you just to share a little bit about just a minute on just what kind of nursing that you've done. Tell us about the results that you've had fueling your endocannabinoid system.
Thanks, Lisa. It's a delight to be here. I've loved my nursing career. I've been doing it for close to 50 years. It's been a long time. But I've spent most of my career in nursing education, and thoroughly enjoyed clinical nursing, and teaching those students and seeing that new role evolve and excitement. But about 23 years ago, I developed an autoimmune disorder, and it caused extensive muscle pain, joint pain, weakness. It was in my tendon sheaths, and it was miserable. I had to give up exercise, and make adjustments at work. I could no longer really function in a clinical setting. So I I looked for other options and looked to professional nursing education of the continuing education postgraduate, and was director of the program at USI for a number of years. So even that job though was hard. In the beginning, I even had trouble driving, had trouble pressing the gas pedal, had trouble holding on to the steering wheel, but I found a rheumatologist at Vanderbilt who was really able to help me get a triage, I guess, or of medications that were able to keep me fairly comfortable. I never really returned to that exercise regimen that I used to do, and some of the physicalness of my life, but I had a really, a fairly good life and a way I could manage it. Of course, during those years, I had to take I got side effects from the medications that were helping to tamp down the inflammation in my body. And then the side effects of those needed more medication. So it was tough. And in 2018, a nurse practitioner friend of mine with a chronic progressive illness, we'd been friends for 20 years, and she shared some remarkable benefits that she'd received from a CBD product, which was Zalise. I was intrigued and I wanted to know more about what had happened with her, because I had heard about CBD, but I really had no idea what it was. I'd gotten some benefits from other supplements, and so I was open to trying something if it was safe. And so she educated me on our endocannabinoid system, which was eye-opening, never heard of it. And so once I understood what the endocannabinoid system was and it could put my body into homeostasis, I thought, well, let's try it and see what happens. So I started it. And within 4 days of starting ultrasound, my knees weren't hurting. I could climb stairs without pain. My knee had been giving way, and that stopped. Within a week or so, I realized I was sleeping like a teenager. I didn't wake up at night. I was prone to waking up and then having to stay up a couple hours to be able to get back to sleep. And that stopped right there. So I was sleeping great and my mood was better. Like Mary Ellen said, her mood was better. And that, I would get defensive sometimes when people would tease me, and that just went away. I don't do that anymore. So that's a nice benefit. And within 8 months, I had my cholesterol checked. Because the doctors have always been after me because I was running a little high, and it was within normal range. And just a few weeks ago, I had it checked again, and it's still in normal range. And I haven't done anything different with my diet, and I have to attribute it to that. My rheumatologist saw that I was getting better over, oh gosh, within about 3 months of starting it. And so I wanted to taper my medications. I tried tapering at times through those 23 years. So he said, well, sure, let's try and see how you do. So within 8 months, I was off those immune suppressing drugs. And I have to say, within those 20 years, I had some pretty bad flus and illnesses at times. And so I was really relieved to be able to go off those medicines and not worry about it now, especially with COVID around. So, oh gosh, what a blessing. So the side effects that I had experienced with the medications have lessened greatly. And so I just never in a million years dreamed I would ever find any way to make me feel better and get off those medicines. I just figured I'd be on them till I died. So I'm just really grateful for this. I did add CBG, which you may learn about tonight, to the CBD, and I take both of those, and I'm just grateful to be feeling so good and off those meds.
Awesome, Peggy. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And you both did such a beautiful job of educating. I know that you guys feel that moral obligation to pay this message forward. What I want to share with you guys is just what we as nurses do now. Mary Ellen, and Peggy, and I'm going to introduce you to two other people if you just give us a little bit of time, because these are beautiful stories. And I didn't know Mary Ellen, I didn't know Peggy. Our lives have been brought together just by this amazing business model. But what we're talking about is fueling our endocannabinoid system for homeostasis. That's really what we do. We invite people to take the Freedom Challenge. It's kind of the path to a new normal. And we use both CBD and CBG, and we begin the process of taking back our health by restoring or refueling our ECS. Now, you might be going, okay, that's like alphabet soup. What is it? And why does it work? And so I'm not going to go real deep into science, but this is if you're taking notes, you can actually get back to whoever invited you to this call, and we'll take a little deeper dive. We've got little videos that we can share, but just understand that this endocannabinoid system needs to be fueled. And our own internal cannabinoids are often missing. Sometimes they're being broken down faster than they can build them. And so what these products do, UltraCell is a hemp-derived full spectrum hemp CBD. That might not mean anything to you right now, but this is kind of your first introduction to the world of hemp. And hemp is not marijuana. It is a cousin. It is like all of the good parts of the plant without the THC. So you don't have to worry about failing a drug test. You're not going to get high. You're not going to get addicted. There's no side effects. It's just like, think about a very highly potent multivitamin supplement. In fact, CBD and the hemp plant has been called God's multivitamin. And so what Zalise does that makes us, really separates us from the corner CBD store, the vape store, the gas station selling CBD, is that they actually take all parts of the hemp plant, not just cannabidiol or CBD. And they actually do some very elegant things, keeping the plant intact, but making it more absorbable to the human body. Because what I knew from nutrition is that when you're talking about plant medicine, plants are oils, and the human body is largely water, and oil and water don't mix. And so when in the world of CoQ10 and fish oil, we were looking at a 10% bioavailability. So you don't get a lot of that. With this plant, the hemp plant, it's even lower. So it's 3 to 6% absorption. And what UltraCell does is it uses a technology that dramatically changes the bioavailability, that it literally goes from 3 to 6% up to 85 to 94%. That's 30 times the absorption or bioavailability. In addition to that, they have done a third-party clinical test. That is what's really neat. It was done at Mayo Professional Research Center. Coming from a pharmaceutical background, this is what really nailed my marriage with Zalise. When I saw that they had done that third-party clinical, spent a lot of money to make sure that not only is their product absorbed under the tongue when they dose it to their clients, but that it stays in the bloodstream for 8 to 12 hours at least before it's actually absorbed in the body. And in addition to that, you can see that if that was a 3 to 6% absorption, it would be along the feet. So we're looking at the actual pharmacokinetics, the dosing curve of the UltraCell product. So a very small amount goes a long way. The other thing you really have to be careful for in this industry is the hemp plant literally is a bioaggregator. It's kind of a fancy word for it pulls from the soil everything in it. And so it's one of the reasons we don't get our sushi or our CBD from a gas station, is because the cheap stuff comes with a lot of things you don't want. And you always want to choose a hemp-derived product that has transparency. That means that it shows you what's in it in terms of the full plant spectrum, and it shows you what's not in it. And there's a QR code on every one of the Zalise products that shows you can scan it. It has an 8-page, what's called a certificate of analysis. It's our proof that what's in it is the highest class, highest quality, that it's actually certified by the US Hemp Authority. It's really, really important. It's a buyer beware industry. What we do, Mary Ellen, Peggy, and I as educators, is we just teach people. We teach people why we're different. We encourage people to understand their endocannabinoid system, and we help them to fuel that. And it's a very, very satisfying job, because physical health is not the only challenge that people face. But if you are sick and you're suffering, it's hard to see tomorrow. It's hard to fulfill our obligations as a nurse, as a parent, as a life partner. And what happened to me is that My son, who was suffering, in 3 days came to me and he said, Mom, I feel so much better. He goes, I feel like I have a fifth gear. I can focus, I can concentrate, I can be around people again. And I was like, oh my gosh, Nate, this is a son who has not been able to hold down a job. He has really not been able to go to college. He literally could not launch in life. And I, at that moment, realized that we had been searching for the wrong thing. And I said, Nate, let's do this as a joint venture. Let's go share this with other people. What would make it worthwhile for you? And he said, Mom, if I could just make $1,000 a month. So once he felt better, he wanted to share this. And what I love about this company is that literally we know other people who are struggling now worse than ever with finances. Their retirement is in jeopardy. Literally, they can't afford their own health care. They have no time. They're working multiple jobs. I'm on the phone with nurses who are in tears. They can't keep doing this anymore. People are looking for not just a third job or a second job, but they want a sense of purpose. And that's what we at Zalise are doing. We're paying forward this message with education, giving people purpose in their lives again, helping them discover time back in their schedule, financial freedom, life with a purpose, getting paid not to fix and put a Band-Aid on disease, not pushing pharmaceuticals, but literally getting paid to share health, literally freedom. This is the freedom call. Freedom to feel good, to work from anywhere, to build what's called residual income, something I had no concept of, and literally fulfill our dreams. And I started on this path 13 years ago. It started with a different company in nutrition, but I was really not doing a whole lot of successful things then. This company is so different because they've been able to capture not just a whole bunch of amazing new products that help fuel the endocannabinoid system, but they're introducing to us something called transfer buying. And this is the key. One of the keys to financial success is that, hey, let's just assume that you're like Mary Ellen and that you're like Peggy and me, and that your son or somebody significant has had a very life-changing experience with this product. And you know that you're going to be using it every month forever. So are you going to go buy this from Walgreens, from Walmart, from Sam's, from, Charlotte's Web, or will you buy it from yourself? And that is really what Zalise allows us to do, is to turn our personal purchases into additional income through sharing. That's not social marketing like, Facebook. That is sharing, word of mouth sharing. And what I love is that we can literally invest in a transition from the old way, drugs, disease management, suffering, to the new way, as Mary Ellen said, turning that medicine cabinet into a wellness cabinet. And that's really what Zalise does. We are now launching a whole new industry with cannabinoid support. And I'm not going to go into great detail tonight, but this expands. November 14th, we're actually doing a 3-hour overview on the brand new direction that new cannabinoid blends, which we haven't even talked about. We talked a little bit about UltraCell. That is mainly CBD, and that activates CB1 receptors in the endocannabinoid system. Peggy mentioned CBG, and that is what was considered really the future of cannabinoids, was cannabigerol, because we discovered that this activates what's called CB2 receptors. When you use them together, it lights up the whole endocannabinoid system. We have great success using those products together. But what if we had new other receptors? And what if we could craft plants and blend them in ways that would help us relieve other areas of human suffering and help people get off meds? We're going to talk more about that on November 14th. So whoever invited you to this, definitely tell them that you would like them to register you for the free overview of our Freedom Summit on this Saturday. And it's from noon to 3 o'clock Central. So I'm not going to go into great detail. We just know that we have highly absorbable nutritional therapies. We have this whole blend of products that they're hemp-free, that mimic hemp in the body for those people who just don't want to use the plant. But this is really a combination of 4 exploding industries. You know, we talked hemp and CBD is exploding right now. It's literally going to be a $1 to $2 trillion industry in the next 10 years. Health and wellness, because of COVID, is going through the roof. The direct selling industry, people are looking for opportunities to work from home. They don't want to be locked in. They've had a taste of it with COVID. And then e-commerce, you guys, that industry has grown a decade's worth in 3 months. We're combining all of these with Celise to create an opportunity to literally transform lives. And so I want to see if I have another, just 2 individuals that I hopefully you'll just pause, because this is really better than cable TV. I want, if Pat Taylor is on the phone, Pat, I want you to unmute, and I want you just very briefly tell us how long you've been a nurse and how Celise has helped you.
Okay, my name is Pat Taylor. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can, Pat.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
My name is Pat Taylor, and I have been an active RN for over half a century, 55 years to be exact. And I want to tell you a little bit about that, because when I was a nurse, you had oxygen tents, and most of your antibiotics, if there were any besides penicillin, were all by injection. And the needles we used, we had to clean, and then we had to file the spurs off of them and steam autoclave them on our shift so the next shift would have them to use. Just to give you an idea, there were no ICUs when I became a nurse. If a patient was that sick, the recovery room nurse had to stay overnight and take care of them. So I've seen a lot of things in nursing, and I have been active all 55 years. I spent 33 years in acute care doing problem solving. That's what I do best. And then 32 years in long-term care. I've been a director of nurses in both. I've been a certified hemodialysis nurse, certified in hemo as well as CAPD. ICU, you name it. I've done it all, had a lot of fun. Started a nutrition program in Georgia, the second one in Georgia. TPN was one of the first people. We used TPN before we knew what we could even put in the bottle. And I tell people that the things we couldn't put in the bottle, we used the abdomen. Zinc you couldn't put in a bottle back then. So we would put zinc on the skin. Iodine, couldn't put that in a bottle. You put that on the skin. We had about 10 things. Their skin looked like I was going to say a washboard, but a lot of y'all may not know what a washboard is. But we would have streaks of medicine on their skin so they could absorb it, because it wouldn't go in an IV bottle back then. But it was a lot of fun. I've enjoyed nursing, and I can't imagine doing anything else. But right after I graduated from nursing school, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So I've always had a problem with arthritis. And then about 30 years ago, I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis. And that osteo will get you in a hurry, especially when you work. But I got to the point, even though I was working, my brother would have to come and meet me at the start to get dressed to put my socks on. I couldn't put my own socks on because I couldn't bend that far and it hurt too much.
Come on, man.
And then 2 years ago, soon be 2 years ago, a friend called me and asked me to come to a meeting. And because he was my friend, I said yes. Well, imagine my surprise when Dr. Steve Todd was the speaker, and he was speaking about the science of the endocannabinoid system. Now, I must live in a cave because I'd never even heard of CBD at that time, and CBG wasn't in existence yet. But when I heard the science, it made sense to me. And I signed up as Gold within 48 hours. And I went on CBD for my arthritis. But what happened was I had had a lifetime of irritable bowel syndrome, And within 3 days, my diarrhea disappeared. And I've not had another diarrhea episode in this entire length of time. And then my arthritis got better, and I can put on my own socks now. So it was amazing. And one thing I did recently, about 2 months ago, I introduced a cousin to the 28-day challenge on CBD, CBG. And her friends noticed within a week that she was getting around better and wanted to know what was going on. So she gave that friend, her friend, my number. And that friend called me because her husband has what is called post-polio syndrome with arthritis. He has been wheelchair bound for a long, long time. And she wanted to try CBD, CBG on her husband. That was 22 days ago. Yesterday, they called me and told me that it is the best thing that he has ever taken for pain, that it has helped his pain and he is able to sleep at night. And they bought their second system of CBD, CBG today. That same cousin shared the same story with another person. So they called. But I'm telling you, it is not about me. It is about the people that you meet that have needs. Yes, I take CBD, CBG, zinc, ice, edge, dream, and I feel better than I have in a long time. And I carry the topical with me all the time because somebody says, oh, my finger hurts, and my knee hurts, and my elbow hurts. I zip that topical out and I put it on them, and boy, that pain is gone within about seven seconds. It is even better as you learn, as you learn the science of the endocannabinoid system, you realize that there is not a person on this earth that does not need CBD, CBG. And that is our mission, is to help everybody that we can come in contact to better health. And that's my story, y'all.
Pat, thank you so much. I love your heart, and thank you for sharing with us. You have forgotten more about nursing than I'll ever know, but you're a great representative of our profession. So thank you so much for that. And I want to finish kind of sharing my friends with you guys with an individual that I actually just kind of met by chance. I'm not sure that that's a real thing. I think that there's a God behind that. But Michael Litt, I want you to unmute, and I just want you to introduce yourself to the callers here tonight. I want you to just kind of share them a little bit about just why you were even open to this, and tell us a little bit about Wise Elise for you.
Sure. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm somewhat of a newer nurse. I've been a nurse for about 4 years, so I'm hearing the stories of the prior speakers, and I mean, just the experiences you must have had. I mean, just on another level. So I respect all of you for being in nursing for as long as you have and seeing everything and dealing with everything you have. So I'm a newer nurse, kind of changed careers a few times, but landed in nursing. Got right into critical care, did step down. I did hospice briefly, and then I went into the ICU. My story's a little different, I guess. Mine is strictly is like COVID related. With me, I kind of, until it kind of got to our front door, I kind of felt like it wasn't really a thing. I felt it was really more for patients, elderly patients that had a lot of comorbidities, or just people with a lot of comorbidities in general. I didn't really think it was that much of a concern or worry. I thought it was kind of, being blown up. And then it hit our hospital. And 1 week, we had one patient, next week we had 4. The week after, we were just overflowing, and no PPE, or like severely limited PPE. Now, my issue, I don't have any autoimmune issues, really any like major debilitating health issues, but I do have chronic bronchitis, always have. I mean, I can, I've gotten bronchitis on a cold day, literally when I just kind of inhaled too quick. I got bronchitis, was laid up for about 2 weeks. The woman I'm seeing, she was a respiratory therapist for 30 years. She got nailed with something on the job. And she was she was laid out in and out of the hospital for a year and a half, intubated a couple of times. So now she's on immunosuppressants for her respiratory issues. And she, again, blows up. If she gets a little chest cold, blows up. I mean, she's a mess with her respiratory issues. So I was very concerned. When it hit our hospital, what really got inside my head was seeing a 30-year-old gentleman with all he had was asthma, like no other comorbidities or pre-existing conditions. And, he came in and he went home. They told him, you're okay, self-quarantine. And then about 5-6 days later, he came in and he's wide awake. Normally, like when we have to intubate a patient, they're kind of hypoxic. They're not able to think clearly. They don't know what's going on. This one was totally aware, totally conscious, totally fine. I mean, his oxygen level was real low, like in the 70% area, but he was totally fine. You wouldn't know it. And we're telling him we have to intubate him. And so we do. And then that wasn't working. And next thing you know, I was told he was going out for ECMO. And then I heard he passed. He got sent out. ECMO, we didn't do ECMO at our hospital, but I heard he passed. But that really kind of got inside of my head. And so I have a beard, and they put me in the ER for the COVID detail. And, I'm dealing in these 4 rooms. 2 of them are confirmed positive COVIDs. 2 of them are like rule outs. And, they're like, just wear the N95, wear whatever. I told them I was concerned with that. They're like, don't worry about it. It's trouble. You don't need to worry about it. Anyway, long story short, I didn't feel comfortable. I shaved. The N95 still wasn't fitting. I asked if I could wear a PAPR. We had limited supply. They said no. I asked if I can just wear the hood and I'll wear N95. Like, I don't need the whole PAPR. They said we were low on the filters. They said no. I spoke to my manager. I spoke to my manager's manager. So I felt pretty much abandoned, and I was kind of freaking out for me and for whatever I might bring to my girlfriend and my parents. They're elderly. They have some health issues. So I had some money saved. I just took a leave of absence, hoping that in a couple months, the worst would be behind us. We would get PPE, and I could kind of go back to my job. I fell into kind of a dark period. I really felt like I left a lot of people in the battlefield. I had money saved so I could do it, but a lot of people didn't have that, weren't in that situation. And a lot of people were kind of just forced to just deal with that situation. And I felt really bad. I kind of fell into a little bit of a dark place. All the while, you got to think this is like the end of March, beginning of April. So the whole country's in a state of panic. Like, I'm thinking I'm not doing bedside because everyone is out of PPE or, reusing masks for 5, 6, 7 shifts in a row. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm not going to have work for about, 6 months to a year. Thankfully, I got a telehealth job the next month, but I was kind of freaking out. I was in a bad way. So I met Lisa through Lisa and Hal. I met them through, they tried, I guess they did some presentations through Indeed, I think it was. And I met them that way. And I saw the presentation, and just like the other people, I never heard of the endocannabinoid system. I thought it was all kind of like just part of a marketing pitch, like you're making up this system that just goes along with whatever it is you're selling. So I told Lisa and Hal, no thanks, like I appreciate it, but not really for me. I had past experience in Amway, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I just said nope. But Lisa and Hal were just so warm and welcoming. Anyway, long story short, I did my research. I looked into it. I was very much skeptical of it, but I figured what have I got to lose? I'll try it. I was really depressed, really anxious with everything going on. I bought my first bottle, and it within a week or so, I didn't get like immediate results, but within a week or so, it kind of flipped my world upside down. That whole cloud that was always kind of hanging over me during that time, I'm not going to say 100% lifted, but very noticeably lifted. I thought it could have been a placebo effect as well. I asked the girl I was seeing if she noticed a difference. She said she noticed a big difference. So it really kind of got me through a dark place at the time. My brother's a burn surgeon. I signed him on, and he's getting some benefits from it as well. He never. It's funny, you know, we're all in the medical field, and you know, none of us, or at least from everyone I've spoken to, has ever heard of the endocannabinoid system, or you know, endocannabinoids or the CB1, CB2 receptors. It's, you know, it's just odd. Not, I guess not odd when you think about it, you know, with big pharma and all, but it's unfortunate, I guess is a better word. But it definitely had a big impact, and I felt great in wanting to share this. I mean, I felt like kind of, not going to say born again, but like it really made an impact on me. And the science behind it, I wanted to kind of shout from the rooftops, like everyone needs to hear this. And like what Lisa was saying initially, you know, working in the hospital, as I'm sure everyone who's worked in health care knows, I mean, it's all lifestyle, and everyone I've ever dealt with are on no less than 10 medications at a time. And each medication causes issues with the other medication, which then causes issues with them, and how they're able to live day by day. And, you know, if we can offer natural alternatives that don't cause all these issues, and that help people kind of, you know, lighten the load a little bit. And if we can get them off a couple medications and help them live their a life that's better, then I'm all for it. And that's what I support. And from everything I've read and from what I've seen, in terms of the science behind it, it's all 100%, and it's all backed up by studies. And with this 2018 Farm Bill, and now, you know, I think the progressive legalization of, you know, well, this is hemp oil, but I'm just saying, I think the studies are going to be more and more, and I think you're going to see more and more evidence that backs it up, which will make what we do all the more important, and I think easier to an extent, because I think it'll help, you know, destigmatize it, and we'll be able to show people the true benefit of it. And I don't know, I guess that's my story.
Awesome. Michael, and just to make sure everybody is aware, PPE is personal protective equipment, correct?
Yes, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It's a little shop talk. That's great.
And it's funny though, because, you know, we talk about this as a supplementary income. And I still talk to my friends. I mean, I do telehealth, but I'm still in regular contact with my coworkers at the hospital. And I'm still, you know, constantly reading about COVID and what's going on. And I'm hearing like this, I mean, obviously the country's facing a surge, but my hospital's getting another surge. They're still having to reuse all the masks. Here we are, you know, 8 months later, and they're still reusing equipment. And I've read studies that show, you know, after, you know, 3 or 4 uses, you know, just alone, yet alone a whole shift and multiple shifts of an N95, it loses its, you know, viability as the protective equipment that it's supposed to be. So here we are in the same place. So I think, yeah, a lot of people are still stressed and kind of ripping their hair out, hoping they would be out of the woods by now, and we're still not. And I think this as a supplementary income is huge. I think everyone needs it now more than ever.
Absolutely. And that's a great transition. So thank you so much, Michael, for sharing with us. And so what I love about Zalise is it gives us an opportunity to balance our endocannabinoids, fuel that system. And as we share this with other people, we have an opportunity to create that supplemental income that Michael was talking about. In addition to 7 different ways of earning commission, this company actually has a benefits package. I'm not going to go into it, but you can see on the screen, that's everything from a blessing bonus, where it's money that you actually have to give to someone else, Jeep bonus, free Jeep, healthcare, reimbursed healthcare premiums, incentive trips, dream bonus. Those are all part of the potential benefits. But the best part is that this is really tied to an industry that is on the cusp of exploding. Even pre-COVID, it was going to explode, but the benefits of the hemp plant we have just touched on. And 90% of success is timing and positioning. This company is going to actually, we believe in 2021, is going to explode. And so there's a lot of opportunity for health. There's a lot of opportunity for additional income and wealth protection that our colleagues need to know about. And we truly believe that health and wellness are more infectious than disease. And we believe that nurses have a loud voice and an impact on the world, unlike any other profession, and that locking arms, we can make a difference. So I just want to thank you guys so much for sharing, my friends for joining this call. I want to thank those of you who took your time to be on this call to get the information, and just heartfelt thank you. And please do your due diligence. That means look at the Rachel Knox TEDx video. Get back to whoever invited you and ask them to share some information on the CBD, CBG, the Freedom Challenge that we've talked about. And if you want a deeper dive in science, come back November 14th. We're really fun. We can do a lot more fun things than just like talk about medications and side effects. It's a really wonderful, wonderful occupation that you might not have known about. And my prayer is that this will bless you and somebody that you know, hopefully get somebody you really love as much as this company and my friends have changed my life. To know that you were the catalyst to Mary Ellen, to Peggy, also to Pat Taylor, that a decision I made 3 years ago has created opportunity for so many others who are suffering. So we have that opportunity to pay it forward. I hope you'll consider joining us on our mission. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll look forward to hopefully having further conversation and seeing you on November 14th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Lisa.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Great job, everyone.